I felt that it was necessary that we start bringing our towns together and talking about issues that we all seem to kind of share in. Some may be worse than others. So this evening, we have our council chair, Mr. Jeff Brower, Volusia County, of course. And then we have our state representative with us, who is Webster Barnaby. He's been in office for quite a while. I'm expecting someone to come to take care of any Q&A cards. If not, I'll do it myself. So I'll be sitting over in that corner if anybody needs anything. I do think, though, that we might be having a few more people kind of come in.
Is your mic on?
Can you hear me?
No.
I talk so low. I talk so low. I'm sorry. Can everybody hear me? Okay. The mayor calls me by a certain actress name with my voice, so it's very low. I think that this is going to be an extremely good meeting. There's a lot of good topics to talk about. Our elected representatives, which I like to refer to them as statesmen because they are out of the city, they're up in the state, they're at the county. They have more access to some information than what we can get to, but you're going to have time to ask questions. I would like to keep the questions to 3 minutes. I would like also to ask, if you've got 15 questions, try to do it in a synopsis and not come up more than twice to ask the question, because that gets pretty long. We could be here till midnight or later. And I have a husband who likes to go to bed at 7 o'clock, so I'm keeping him up right now. So with that, I would like to also introduce, not my phone.
Could everybody silence their phones, please?
Yeah, please.
Teasing you.
I forgot. With us tonight from Lake Helen, we have former commissioners, we have volunteers. At the back table here, we have former commissioners Kelly Frasca and Ann Robson. I think most everybody knows them. They kind of got around the county quite a bit. And then at the front table, we have our mayor, Vernon Burton. You're a former commissioner. Yes, you're in the wrong place. You're in the wrong seat. We have Mr. Cookie, and then we have our CA, who is fairly new to the city. He's been here, I think it's going on 4 months now. And I'm going to turn the mic over to him so he can kind of fill you in on where we as a city are, where we'd like to go, some of our downfalls, if he wants to talk about that. And also, he'll probably look at our statesmen and tell them that we need some money. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Gleason. We call him Jim. You can call him Jim.
Well, first of all, thanks to Lynn for putting this on and inviting our county chairman and our state representative. Appreciate you taking time out of your day. I won't spend a lot of time about Lake Helen because the meeting tonight really is about East Helen coming in and speaking to you all, and you all having the chance to meet with them. In 4 months, I can tell you that while Lake Helen is small, it is challenging. I think those of you who live here know that you've got a little unique bubble here. You're buffered from I-4, and so to some degree, you're kind of insulated from that growth that's overtaken
Jim,
most of Central Florida.
We might need the mic. They can't hear you behind you.
What I was going to say is you all know that Lake Helen is somewhat isolated, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but from the standpoint of where I-4 is. And you know that I'm from Orlando, grew up in Orlando, moved to Florida in 1965, and I live here during the week, but I go back home to Winter Garden on the weekend, and it never amazes me when I come back in that there's this sense of you're in a little bubble here. This is, you think you're in Florida in reference to Central Florida growth, but you really do have a very unique and special character about your community. The growth of the development don't seem to impact Lake Helen to the level that it does the communities on the outside. But that in itself also brings some challenges because you're a predominantly residential community. You're highly dependent upon property taxes to fund what's necessary in your community. And so that's always a challenge. We don't have the diversity in the tax base that you may have in some other communities. But this community's adapted to that, and they've learned to deal with that. I'll be working on the budget here in the next month to 6 weeks, and then doing a draft budget and working with the mayor and commission. Very much aware that nobody likes taxes to go up, so you always go into it with an eye on keeping the tax rate the same or potentially doing a rollback with the valuations that come up. But I think we have a workshop again Thursday, and it may be the 4th out of 8 that we've had scheduled in just a couple of months that I've been here. So going back to that, small but a very busy place, and let's just say that there are some days that I'm still learning about your community and what goes on. But at least tonight, let's maybe put differences aside. Social media and all those things that seem to fuel anger and frustration between us, and have a very positive dialogue with your elected officials. We get much more accomplished when we work together, regardless of our backgrounds and our philosophies, than we do if we just stand and shout at each other all day and ignore what the other person's saying or not even bother to listen. So I'm going to do a lot of listening because I haven't met these two gentlemen before, and you all have some history of their representation. And so on that note, Lynn, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to you, Rick.
I started one of my town halls a little differently. Tonight, our city's being represented, our county's being represented. Did you turn it off? Yeah, you did. You turned it off on me. Our city's being represented, our county's being represented, and our state is being represented. So I'd like to ask, first and foremost, and don't cheat, who are true Floridians, born and raised in Florida? Good, okay. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit because one time I asked how many years has anybody lived in Lake Helen. Well, we're all from different cities here tonight. Who's from the land? I know we've got the land represented. Okay, great. Deltona. New Smyrna Beach. My husband's nurse. New Smyrna Beach. Oh. All right, who did I miss?
Very.
DeBerry, of course. I love DeBerry. I lived there for a while too. Perfect. All right, so with that, at least we've got some areas that we all basically, I think, have the same concerns. We're worried about stormwater, taxes, flooding, everything. So, but at least with us being from different areas, we may have some different questions or maybe ideas that we can share. But what I'm really here for tonight too is to hear from our elected officials. They have, I think, pretty much a synopsis of what they're going to talk about in the schedule, but they are very open to Q&As. So if anyone, like I mentioned earlier, wants to ask a question, we have some blue cards over here. The only thing I ask is we have 2 representatives on the dais, is that if you're wanting to ask a question to one of our representatives, just put their name, or if it's both, to see If the other one has something to add to it, just put both representatives. That way we'll be able to distinguish, or at least I will, on who you want to speak to and about what issues, okay? With that, I think that we need to start off with a prayer, do our ceremonial. Mayor, would you mind praying for our meeting, please?
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come together to do the work of the city and to let folks know that you are alive and well, Lord. We thank you for the representatives that have come and not think it was robbery, to show our community that they care about us and that how we can help them help us. So we ask that this meeting be done today. Well, all things that will be done decent and in honor, and we thank you in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. And now we will do the pledge behind you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to finish up my portion of this by introducing from left to right. We have Drake, who is our State Representative's Associate.
Legislative assistant.
I'm sorry?
Legislative assistant.
Legislative, okay, not associate.
Legislative.
He hasn't let you buy into the business yet? Okay. Legislative assistant, Drake. Then, of course, we have our state representative, Webster Barnaby. He's been around for a while. We also have our Volusia County Council Chairman. He's been around for a while, Jeff Brower. And then we have another legislative assistant, Suzanne, who works with Jeff Brower. So with that, would you like to flip a coin to see who goes first, or do we go by alphabetical order?
Webster always goes first.
Okay, since he's at the state level. All right, I'm handing it over to you guys.
Yes, So, do I have a question from someone or?
Do you want to go with questions right now, or would you like to talk about what you're working on and what's happening at the state level, and then do the QAs? It's up to you guys.
All right, I'll start with what I'm working on currently. Ladies and gentlemen,
Drake?
I'm so grateful that we're here this evening. I'm serving in my second term in the House of Representatives in Tallahassee. I'm currently serving as the Vice Chairman of Criminal Justice for the state, and also the Vice Chairman of Ethics and the government in the state as well. In addition, this session I was proud to have 4 pieces of legislation which I was the first named sponsor on which passed out of the legislature signed by the governor. I was privileged to carry HB 85 public records for new state banks and trust companies, HB 311 securities, HB 551 designation of eligible telecommunication carriers. I was also proud to be the prime co-sponsor of HB 485 return of weapons and arms following an arrest, which was carried by Representative Robbie Brackett. HB 85 and the Senate companion bill to HB 485 were all signed by the governor on April 5th. And I expect that the Senate companion bills, the HB 311 and HB 551, will be signed in the coming weeks. I was also proud to get multiple projects in the budget this year, including funding for the rehabilitation of Deltona's sanitary sewer system and a new fire station for Deltona. I'm also proud to say that 2 years ago I was able to secure 100% funding for a new fire station for the beautiful town of DeBarry. I'm so proud of that as well. And not only that, 2 years ago, I was able to bring $17.5 million back to Volusia County from Tallahassee. The projects that I'm most proud to have helped get funding for are 2 fetal alcohol spectrum disorder clinics. The existing clinic in Sarasota was fully funded in the budget and sent to the governor, and funding for a new diagnostic center in Pensacola was also included. Beyond just what I was able to help accomplish this session, I was proud to have helped work on a number of impactful bills. This session, we fought to protect minors from harmful online materials while maintaining the parental rights to decide what is best for their child. We passed laws to crack down on retail theft and to better address juvenile offenders so they don't turn into repeat offenders as adults. We passed laws aimed at providing better economic self-sufficiency, reforming our educational standards and cutting taxes. I am proud to say that the Republican caucus in our legislature had another truly impactful session in 2024. To quote Speaker Paul Renner, it was the most consequential legislative session in the history of the state of Florida. HB 85, my bill, was signed by the governor on April 5th and will go into effect July 1st of this year. This is the public records for new state banks and trust companies. One of the things I recognize about this beautiful city of Lake Helen is that there is a need for more banking. Because banking, what it does, it attracts businesses and investors to invest in this beautiful town. And I'm proud to say that I'm going to be working real hard, like I've been doing already, for the beautiful city of Lake Helen. Let me also say that this banking exemption protects the employees from identity theft and potential retaliation from their current employers. As the transition to new role, the bill also exempts the strategic and operational plans of new banks to ensure a competitive playing field in the banking sector. This bill is going to encourage more new banks to come to Florida and give our citizens more options for where to fulfill their banking needs. I can't tell you any more than the fact that it's an important economic driver for any small town or large town that you have access to capital. Because people take risks to open a business, to build a growing community when they have access to capital. Now, my securities bill, HB 311, is very important because a lot of the senior retired folks have a lot of money invested in the stock market, and it's so important that your funds are protected, particularly when you are investing in securities. HB 311 was a bill I was extremely proud to carry on behalf of the Office of Financial Regulations, identified many outdated statutes related to securities and set out on a 4-year journey to modernize the statutes. Nothing has happened in 30 years until I came along. I have a business background, and I think it's critical that our public is made to feel safe when they're investing. And we don't want any Bernie Madoffs to come to Florida. Okay. Now, I worked hard with that bill. Over the past 2 sessions, I've been grateful to work with the Office of Financial Regulations on this legislation. We now have passed a full securities package. This half of the package reduces barriers of entry into the marketplace for small businesses by increasing the crowdfunding caps and removing unnecessary red tape around obtaining investment capital. It also enhances the protections against fraudulent investment, specifically against our more vulnerable elderly populations. This bill is going to help Florida continue to be the economic powerhouse of the United States. And it will help us continue to be a welcoming environment for new startups and local businesses alike. So you understand that the role of a state legislator is to see things from a 30,000-foot perspective. I'm not just helping all of my House District 29 towns and cities, but I'm helping the entire state of Florida. And I've been very fortunate to be very successful in bringing forth legislation that's going to help the entire population of the great state of Florida. Let me just say, HB 485, Return of Weapons and Arms Following an Arrest. I was proud to be the prime co-sponsor on Representative Brackett's bill, and I'm proud to say it was also signed by Governor DeSantis on April 5th. As many as you may know, I am a strong supporter of the Second Amendment of our Constitution. I want to ensure Floridians are not having their rights impeded. This bill will ensure a timely return of weapons and arms to their owners after the police have concluded that they are not pertinent to their investigations. There have been instances where even after the criminal had been caught and convicted, innocent citizens could not retrieve their guns from the police evidence locker, and this bill will make sure this process is streamlined and every citizen has the right to bear arms will be upheld. Also, HB 551, designation of eligible telecommunications carriers. Very important because small towns, I hear often that people say we don't have proper connections with our cell phones because we live in a small town. My bill, HB 551, is a fantastic bill that will provide connectivity to many rural and low-income communities through a federal program called the Lifeline Program. The Florida Public Service Commission will be able to designate carriers as lifeline providers. These providers will allow for people in underserved communities like Lake Helen to have the connectivity to reach emergency services, talk with their family, and go to online school or find work and new jobs. I'm so grateful to have carried this bill and been able to help impact the lives of so many Floridians in need. I also say to everyone here, I was also proud that the Kidney Disease Awareness Month, the World Kidney Day, HR 8003, is incredibly important to me. There are about 37 million Americans who suffer from chronic kidney disease or at high risk to develop it. The worst part is that 40% of the 37 million are unaware they have it. I feel that by filing this resolution, and recognizing Kidney Disease Awareness Month and World Kidney Day in Florida, I can help to spread awareness about the risk of this disease and help those at risk to prevent it. I encourage all of you tonight to not only celebrate World Kidney Day and spread awareness, but go to the doctor, get a checkup, make sure that you're taking care of yourself. It's so important that we look after each other. I'm very transparent. I care about people more than I care about getting reelected. I've seen the job that I've been doing in the last 4 years as an extension of my ministry to the greater community. Now, we've had flooding in Volusia County as an issue. It's constantly on my radar. One of my staff and I are looking into solutions during the 2023 session. I was able to secure funding for elevations to roadways in Deltona to prevent flooding. We often find ourselves in a no-win situation. And I'm encouraging tonight from the podium that the beautiful city of Lake Helen look into a budget situation whereby we can hire professional lobbyists like the ones that I've worked with, because this is how this beautiful city will get the funding that it needs, by working with a professional lobbyist. And after the meeting tonight, I won't say from the podium, I'll be more than happy to share with you my thoughts on who's successful, can do a successful job for the beautiful city of Lake Helen. We have to do things in a professional manner, ladies and gentlemen. That's the only way we're going to get things done. We're professionals on this podium, and I saw professionals at the start of this meeting speaking about the job that they've been doing for this beautiful city. So I want to encourage you that I'm a cheerleader for Lake Helen. You've got some wonderful people here, friends of mine in the audience, and new friends that I've just met tonight. But work with me from a professional standpoint. I guarantee you, we're going to see wonderful change for the beautiful city of Lake Helen. Thank you.
Geez, Webster, I'm tired just listening to your schedule. Before I tell you about me, I'm gonna pick on Webster a little bit. I met Webster, I think it was his first campaign ever. I took my family to go hear him talk. He was down by the river in Daytona Beach, And about halfway through his speech, my kids, I have a lot of kids, a couple of the kids turned to me and said, "Who is this guy?" And it wasn't in a negative way. One of them said, "I feel like we're listening to Abraham Lincoln." And he inspired my kids, and he inspired me, and I introduced myself when he got done, and we've been friends ever since. And Webster truly has a servant's leader heart, and that's how he runs his representation. So, I wasn't born here. There was only a couple people that were, but I got here as quick as I could. I couldn't hitchhike. I was only 3. So I had to wait for my parents to move, and they did. My dad built houses in south of Philadelphia. And he could only work a half a year because it was so cold. So he had what he thought was a heart attack. Fortunately, it turned out not to be. He came down to Daytona to visit his brother, took his work truck to the beach, and was stunned to find out he could actually drive his truck on the beach. Took pictures of it, packed up, went home, and told my mother we're moving to Daytona Beach. She cried, of course, because she had to leave her mom and dad, brother and sister. But they did, and as hard as that was for her, I'm glad that we came down here. So I've lived here my whole life. I was raised in Daytona. I bought some property in DeLeon Springs in 1980 to start a farm, which we did. We grow children and beef cows, dairy cows, very small. We're a direct-to-consumer farm, and vegetables. So I tell you that to that point because I heard something this weekend that I want to share with you. I took my oldest son to Swoop, Virginia, when he was 15, to one of the most incredible farms in the United States, Polyface Farms. Because I didn't know anything about farming, but I knew it's what I was a horticulturist. I was growing plants. We were growing herbs, legal herbs, and took him, and we were inspired. This past weekend, I got to take my youngest son, Brayson, to Polyface Farms. And it was called the Rogue Food Conference. And the reason it was called that is because farmers oftentimes find themselves fighting government a lot of the time. And I think all of you sometimes feel like you're fighting government. And that's not my goal, is to have you have to fight with government. I don't think it's Webb's goal either. And it's the reason I decided to run. But before I tell you that, we heard from a man, you probably have met him, Thomas Massey, one of the most vocal members of Congress, a man who really appreciates the Republic and the Constitution. And he said something to this group of farmers that he didn't know I was there. He didn't know me. He knows me now. But, he said, you know, national elections are important. He's running again. But he said the most important part of a republic, because we're not top down, is the people that serve on your city commissions, your mayors and commissioners, county councils, and your state legislature. He said the state legislature, all of the states, are what created the federal government. And they're supposed to be subordinate to the states. It doesn't feel that way most of the time, does it, Webster? But I was so glad that he really preached on the importance of local government, because we're the government that touches your lives the most. We can interfere in positive ways and negative ways. The reason I decided to run is because I wasn't sure my life as a farmer, as a father, as somebody who just loved Volusia County, loved working on the beach as a kid. I worked as a lifeguard for 10 years. I felt like I didn't have a voice. And I felt like my government ignored me. So I decided I would run. A group of people came and asked me, because we had just worked together on a project to stop a tax increase for Volusia County. There was a group that wanted to raise your sales tax. I didn't want to raise the sales tax. It was sounded like for a good cause. It was to build infrastructure, to build roads. I was suspicious of it, and when I saw the details of it, my suspicions were real. The roads that would be built weren't going to be the roads that you struggle with every day, with potholes and not enough lanes or stormwater so that you didn't flood. It was going to go to the outskirts of not this town, but the outskirts of the county, mostly in Daytona, Port Orange, Ormond Beach, where huge new developments were being built, and they would get the money to build the roads. You would get taxed for it, and they would get the roads. I think in Volusia County, we have a serious problem in the way that we're developing. You mentioned that we're experiencing flooding. Webster mentioned that we're experiencing flooding. We're experiencing flooding from one end of the county to the next. I started off this morning, I'm sorry I don't look as well as Webster and his assistant did. I ran all day today. I started on the beach in Daytona, ended up in Seville, DeLeon Springs, and fortunately Lake Helen tonight. All of it had to do with, except for the first half of my Daytona visit, was to support our local lifeguards. All of it had to do, one way or another, with development and the results of the flooding, traffic, not enough infrastructure. That's where I spend most of my time, because that's where I get most of the calls from you, from the public, is issues that you face with traffic, with flooding, and I have determined that we need to do something different, because we've been doing the same thing for a long time. We bring in huge developers. We change zoning on the property they buy. When you buy property in a republic, you have private property rights that says you can build on that whatever the zoning says. You can build 4 houses per acre, that's what you can do. Developer will come in and buy 300 acres and it's zoned for 3 houses per acre or 4 houses per acre. But they'll come to the city council, county council and say, I want to build 24 houses per acre in this rural neighborhood. So they need to change the zoning, they need to change the land use, and almost every time, city councils, county council grant them that privilege to do that. I'm not against building houses, we need them. I'm not against growth, I'm for more responsible growth. Growth that doesn't cause flooding, because here's what's happening. All of the easy places in Volusia County that have been developed, like the high and dry places, have houses built on them, businesses built on them. So now we're down to the wetlands, the lowlands, and so we have to bring in tons of fill, millions of cubic yards of fill. I've seen more developments than I can mention that have been raised 6 foot, houses paved over, houses put on at 24 per acre instead of 4 or whatever it was previously zoned for. And then he built a great big burp. Does anybody know what a burp is? Gary, you should know. What is it?
You're a permanent thing?
It's a big, ugly retention pond. I didn't name that. Somebody from the professor that I admire from the University of Florida that teaches low-impact development. That's what he calls it. And he makes fun of them because here you might have 300 acres that was treed and had natural vegetation before the development. It rains, our sandy soil absorbs the water, the trees pump it out, the shrubs pump it out, but the development comes in and wipes all that out, brings in the fill, and then digs a pond, and all of that water that was supposed to be absorbed by the 300 acres is now supposed to be absorbed by this BERT, by this retention pond. You see them all over the county. And it doesn't work the way it's supposed to. They're not breaking the law. Developers follow the law. The law says that you have to retain every drop of water that falls on your property. And they do. It's retained in retention ponds where it perks down a little bit, follows this fill that they can. We have a hard pan in Florida. The whole county in pollution, sometimes it's 12 inches, sometimes it's 12 foot. But the water will go percolate through the soil, through the retention pond, to that hard pan, and then follow it. And the next lowest place, which tends to be your neighborhood, all the neighborhoods around this now elevated 6-foot development. So it has become a full-time job for me. I put a notice on Facebook. I said, if you're having flooding that's not related to the 2 hurricanes that we had almost 2 years ago now, or 2 years ago, please let me know. I'm still getting flooded with, no pun intended, with people that are experiencing flooding issues. And so I said, if you tell me about it, I'll come out and take a picture. I'll try and figure out where the water's coming from. And it's not hard to do. You can follow the path of water. And so I'm trying to get our county council to look at low-impact development at the University of Florida, the University of Kansas, almost every state university in this country is saying because flooding is not just a Florida issue, it's happening everywhere because our population is growing and we're building houses rapidly. I would like to see the house building industry slow down a little bit and pick up on commercial building because that will help on your taxes. You're paying a lot of taxes between property taxes and sales taxes. If we have more commercial buildings or businesses that hire people at good salaries, then we don't have such a problem with affordable housing, which we do. A lot of our workers can't afford to find a house. I just had 2 kids that moved out of the house, a son and a daughter. They got a house together. They couldn't believe the cost of rent. So they're at my house every night eating dinner because there's not enough room, there's not enough money at the end of the month for food. I'm happy about that. I didn't want them to leave. Webster knows my kids, and I'm sure he understands that. It's Boaz and Bethany. So we still have them a lot. We have to do something about that too. So I don't want to ramble on. I really want to get to your questions, but the things that a county government is different than what Webster does for you in Tallahassee. I have a great relationship with Webster. I don't hesitate to pick up the phone when I see him somewhere. I'll tell him about issues that I have. He'll tell me. One of the things that you're going to be confronted with, it'll be interesting to see if you get an answer, is there's a lot of septic systems in Lake Helen, correct? And the county and the state is looking at these septic systems and saying, look, we need to convert you to sewer system because it's better for the environment. The issue with that is that it's very expensive. It's expensive for taxpayers, it's expensive for homeowners who sometimes lose their home because they can't afford the $30,000 for the conversion, even though counties, cities will often let you pay that off for 30 years. But there's an answer that I have found to that where we could keep every septic system in the state of Florida and have them produce clean, clear water. How many of you have ever looked inside of a septic tank? Not a pretty sight. There's a company in Crystal River, Florida called Renovation. I happened to talk to them tonight again because we're working with the state DEP. They have a system, no chemicals. It's like an aquarium filter. Doesn't even filter. It's 3 tubes. They drop it in the hole of the septic tank. It grows beneficial bacteria. I mean, feet long. It covers the septic system. It removes the nitrogen, the phosphorus. It even removes some of the chemicals. We don't know how many yet because it's very expensive to test. and it puts out on the other end, just in this little septic tank, clean water. You put a glass in it, you look, I'm not going to drink it, but it looks like you could drink it. That water is full of this beneficial bacteria that then goes into the drain fields and cleans them up because of all the beneficial bacteria. It cleans out the sludge, it revives it revives old septic systems. So I saw this, I investigated it, I spent a lot of time with the company. I talked to other people, Ronnie Mills, who's in charge of our zoning and planning board, Mills Septic Tanks, talked to him about it. His response was, if you can get them here, I want to be their first distributor, because he knows that his industry is under a lot of pressure. So Webster, I drove to Palm Coast and visited with Paul Renner, who was speaker. He won't be speaker this session, but does he go till November?
Speaker Renner, his term ends, it's just ending, and the new speaker designated is Mr. Danny Perez out of Miami.
Does he still serve as a state legislature?
No, his
Okay,
term
he's gone.
My former legislator, Darrell Boyd, is running for speaker's seat.
Anyway, I went and presented this to this reovation system to Paul Renner, and he said, can I talk to this guy? So we got him on the miracle of Zoom or webinar or whatever it was, and he talked to the owner, and he looked at me and said, why aren't we doing this? He said, we could correct Florida's pollution problem all over the state, because it's a statewide issue. And I said, well, that's why I'm here, because your DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, won't give them the required permit to even test the system. So we've got Stetson University ready to do the test. We've got 30 homes around their aquatic center here in West Volusia. It's not part of the Stetson property, but there happens to be this group of homes there, all in septic tanks. They said, every one of them has agreed to let us test them. So Stetson's ready to do independent testing, the homeowners are ready, and Paul Renner's ready, and he said, this is a no-brainer. It would save the state trillions of dollars in forcing people off of their septic tank and onto sewer, and it works better. Because even though you have a sewer system, which is good, you still have sewage at the end of it. It's just concentrated, and you still have to do something with it. So it has to go somewhere, the water, ground. So for 6 months, Paul has worked with me with the DEP, and we still don't have a permit, but we're close. Now they're offering to give this company a grant to use these 30 homes to test. He said the grant process will take about 6 months. And then we'll get a determination, yes, it works, no, it doesn't. But you have to go through that process. So we're going to continue working on that. It would be so beneficial to the state of Florida. And I'm hoping to be able to present that to the county council here soon, that the DEP is granting them the permit. So I'm going to shut up because I've been talking a long time, and so that we can open it up for questions. Are you clapping because I'm going to shut up? Are you having? Is the audience writing down questions, or are you going to call on people?
Well, we do have one signature that has a question for
Okay. Okay.
And then, is anybody else wanting to fill out a new card? Anybody else want to fill out a new card? We'll pass it out. Would be easier if I gave it to you. Y'all can keep talking. anybody over here?
While she's thinking of coming up here, I want to ask you a question. Not to answer right now, but before I go tonight, I want you to tell me, I'll hopefully call on people from the audience. I want to hear your 3 top concerns for Volusia County. What do you worry about? What do you hope for? Or what are the 3 things that you think I need to be working on? My wife always tells me that silence in the house is good because we have 9 children. Again, while she's coming up here, would one person raise their hand if they're willing to share what you think the top concern, and your top concern for Volusia County is? Nancy Weary.
Conservation, wildlife pockets.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Taxes.
Oh. Yes, ma'am.
Clean water.
Conservation, taxes, clean water, they kind of go together. Yes, Cookie.
Yeah, just what you were talking about, septic systems.
Okay. Gary Cruz.
Our beaches, there used to be the world famous beaches, we're no longer that.
You live in the area.
Infrastructure.
Infrastructure. Not enough, too much?
Not enough.
Okay.
So
Lynn, interrupt me anytime. I'm just,
you guys, are you ready to start doing some Q&As? Because I think once this gets started, then that'll bring on some more questions. Oddly enough, you're gonna have 2 people talking on the same subject.
All right, let me
I
go
go
first.
first, though.
Thank you. I'm going to go first.
Okay, the first question, though, will be from...
Todd Preston
Yeah,
and Gary Cruz both have the same type of question.
do they do? Okay, so we'll let Todd and then Carrie go.
I can answer both.
Okay.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you for coming out tonight. Appreciate it. My question is the insurance crisis. It's affecting everybody in this state. Nobody will say that it's not. I need to know, it truly needs to be fixed. Something needs to be done. What are we going to do to fix it? And on that aspect, I just want to put a footnote here that really bugs me, and I wish that somebody at your level would address it. The roofing manufacturers are selling us a product that has a 30-year warranty. They're pricing their product based on that warranty. The insurance industry won't recognize that, and they're mandating that we replace our roofs at 15 years. So why is the roofing industry allowed to sell a product and charge us that does not have a valid warranty? Which one is it? Is it really a product that lasts for 30 years? Or is it a product that lasts for 15 years and they're overcharging us because they know that the insurance industry controls the state and they're going to mandate that we replace our roofs? People can't afford it. There's no way. You know, my homeowners insurance now is 5.5 times what my initial mortgage was with PITI. Just the homeowners insurance. And I'm coming up on 17 years on my roof on my house. It has a 30-year warranty on it. It's pristine, it's in great condition, but my insurance company, I've already had 3 insurance companies, and you know it, everybody here knows it. It's a critical situation, and we need it to be addressed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President, for that great question. I want to say to Mr. Preston and also to Mr. Cruz, who had a similar question, that last year we in the legislature worked on this major problem of insurance and why the costs are continuing to rise. We recognize that we have a problem with litigation. We've become a very litigious society, and that's why we currently have over 100,000 lawsuits pending. And because of that, the insurance carriers literally got scared, and many have left our states. We have done our part in the legislature by initiating tort reform to make sure that we can cut down on the frivolous lawsuits that's being filed by many of the trial attorneys. But that's not all. Let me just say, Mr. President, that high insurance cost deserves a comprehensive answer, the big picture answer. It's not going to be solved overnight, unfortunately. I wish it was, because my home insurance has gone up as well, tremendously. But we recognize that one of the things that we've done because of enacting tort reform, we currently have over $1 billion in reinsurance being promised by carriers who are going to come back to the state of Florida because we've made the environment for them to open a business, an insurance business, a lot more friendly than it was 2 years ago. So it's going to take some time. Although we are seeing signs of the fact that we've got more commerce, we believe that the more competition insurance companies have, it will automatically drive the price of insurance down. It's tried and true economic driver that with more competition, they will be forced to lower their prices. But we've also worked hard to create an environment where there's more chances for business to come back to the state of Florida. I also serve on the Commerce Committee in Tallahassee, and I also serve on the Ways and Means Committee. And so what I've done, Mr. Preston and Mr. Cruz, is I have, as you heard from my readout of the bills I passed on securities and banking, I recognize that an economic driver to our state is to make sure people have access to capital. Businesses will take the risk to invest and come back to our state. And because we can do that, and I have done that successfully with the governor signing all of my bills, that I've worked closely with the Office of Financial Regulation, I've done everything I can to create an environment where consumer confidence is going to be at an all-time high in the state of Florida. It's important that we have consumer confidence, because without consumer confidence, no one's going to take the chance to risk their capital. They want to be able to go to see a lender through crowdfunding or the other sources that we have and say, well, wait a minute, Representative Barnum has created an environment where we can borrow money at a low interest rate and start a business and bring back our insurance companies to the state of Florida, which will force the other insurance companies to lower their prices. And Mr. Preston, I'm being as completely transparent as I can, because one of the things I hate about quote-unquote politicians is they try to blow smoke up your tailpipe. I'm not trying to blow smoke up your, I'm giving it to you as it is. From a comprehensive standpoint, we are doing everything we can to make sure that you, the homeowners, you, the property owners, you, the business owners in the state of Florida can have access to capital, and that we can do our part in the state to create an environment where we have consumer confidence at the highest level it can be, so that companies can come back here and do business in our state as opposed to doing business in other states. So that's just a long answer to let you know that we are working every single angle to remediate this problem as quickly as possible. So again, thank you for the question. I really appreciate it, and I'm happy to work tirelessly on your behalf. Let me also say something while I've got the mic in my hands. I was recently given a special award, which I take great pride in, as a Republican, because this award is not given out to many Republicans. But the Captains for Clean Water, a strong environmental group, recently awarded me Legislator of the Year because I've worked tirelessly to make sure that in our state, we have the most clean and pristine waters. I worked real hard with the government to make sure we cleaned up the Indian River Lagoon and all the estuaries around our state, because without clean water, we will not have tourism. We will not have people being healthy enough to drink the water out of a hose like we used to do as kids, but buying bottled water. I got bottled water sitting on this table here, but I wanted to get back to where we could go down to the lake, to the creek, and drink that water because we know it's clean. It's without contaminants. And our food was the best food because the fact that we had the cleanest water. So I believe we are stewards of the earth. I believe that strongly as a Christian, that the first job that the Lord gave us was to tend the Garden of Eden. And it's still my job to take care of the garden, that's the earth, to make sure the earth is clean and pristine for the next generation, for my children and my children's children. Not just for me, but for future posterity, for our generations. I thank the lady in the audience who raised that concern, because I've worked really hard to make sure that we have a clean, pristine environment that is not destroyed. And I certainly appreciate my friend, Jeff Brower, the chairman of our county, who has done the same thing over his entire life span. So again, thank you so much for the questions. I see Cookie gave me a card right here. He said there's a question for us both, but I don't see a question. Do you have a question, Cookie?
Couple.
Here it comes. Watch out, folks.
Just a couple.
It's a very
Just a couple. Got a couple things to say first. And about you first, and then you second. And that is, this gentleman right there didn't even represent our, oh, I'm sorry. Didn't even represent our area. At the time, when I first met him, I asked, who's this guy? This is a few years back. And they said, well, he's a representative. Oh, okay. Does that sound better?
Better.
Not that you want to hear me anyhow. But anyhow, I didn't even know him, and I said, he doesn't represent us. Well, as I got to know him more and more, because I was on the Civils and Water Board for 16 years, and he worked with us a lot with the water qualities and the fern growers with all using the water up and everything else. He was right there. But there's one thing about him. When he turned around and decided to run this area and everything else, I was one of the first ones to jump on his campaign to get him where he should be. And that was, I was so proud of him to come here. Believe me, I was. I'll never forget it. You've always been not only a politician, but a good friend too. And you're next, Jeff. When they said to me, because I went through a lot of county council chairmen, a lot. And let me tell you something, when I heard about you, I didn't know you either. You stopped to make part. I said, who is Jeff Brown? I said, oh, Cookie, he's down to earth. Well, little did I know that you were a farmer, and you were down to earth, really. But anyhow, and the same thing with both of you. I love to work for people that like to work for the county. And Lake Helen too. And you've been a very, very good contact, not only for the county, but for Lake Helen too and stuff. And I just presented Jeff with a proposal we got here now. I work with a company out of Cape Coral that does beach restoration. we got some good ideas that the owner had gone to France and learned about redoing the beaches. Instead of trucking dirt in, 1,000 yards of dirt and everything else, we can dig a trench on the beach and redo that beach and bring it up without doing all that and everything else. And we're gonna get together with Jeremy Brackenwell, Jeff and me, and get that thing in motion and start it working and everything else. But I gotta say thank you for both of you to come to this little redneck town here. But believe me, appreciate you being here. Thank you very much.
God bless you, Cook. Thank you so much. We will not let you down. Jeff and I will work closely to make sure that we preserve the freedoms that our founding fathers gave us.
Yes, yes. Thank you, gentlemen.
You're welcome. Thank you. I wanted to say something about your last, a little redneck town. Lake Helen is one of the most beautiful, and I know you agree, towns in Volusia County. When my best friend in high school lived around the corner, raised horses. His wife raised horses. He was better. And so visiting him, I really got to learn this town. And then you had the exercise equipment.
Douglas.
Who?
Arthur Jones.
Douglas.
Arthur Jones.
Yes.
Yes.
And this is a beautiful town with beautiful lakes that we need to protect because as we grow, it puts pressure on that. It may be a redneck town. I kind of look at it as more of just a quiet community of people that care about their environment, care about one another. And every time I have met your mayor, anywhere, at county events, wherever, he's one of the most thoughtful people that I have met, and he's thinking about what can I do as mayor now to serve this community, and he's got good ideas, and that's a true asset in a small town, redneck or not. You need people. We've got 2 people here from the city commission that work overtime to better their city, and so you're gonna elevate the entire city commission because you're always doing something.
I am.
Anyway, Cookie, thank you.
Jim, can I say something? You know what? You're a week and a half late. Guess what we had a meeting on last week? Septic tanks. Septic systems and stuff. And I looked at Jim, I says, grab the name, I told Vernon, grab the name of that company. But Jeff, we had a meeting just on septic systems about a week and a half ago, what we were gonna do about it and everything else. But just a quick one before I get done. When I came to town, Dick Bishop says, I said to him, I said, this redneck town? 6 months later, I went over to him, I says, is my neck getting redneck? Thank you, gentlemen.
Jeff, Cookie and I are from Jersey.
And you ready for this? We ran against each other 2 times.
Can I go next?
Yes, go ahead.
Because you said you just had a meeting on septic, we have a question on septic. Did you want to come up and Nancy Weir?
I do. We did just have a workshop on septic. A lot of information. We need a lot of information. Our entire city, other than the villas, is on septic. You proposed what you just mentioned. Sounds fantastic. We would love to be, and I'm totally speaking out of turn, but we would love to be that community trying that out. I wish that was us and not somewhere else. Do you have an idea of what that system you spoke of cost?
$7,000
Oh my gosh.
instead of 30.
Great, okay.
And he's not the speaker now, but Paul Renner said, in DeLeon Springs, they're forcing a lot of people around the spring itself to go from septic to sewer so that we don't pollute the spring. And the state of Florida, Webster, I think he sent us $1 million, and then they added another $1 million. to help people with that $30,000 expense. 2 million by 30,000 doesn't go a long ways, or doesn't do the whole job, but it goes a long ways to helping the people to do it, but it would save us a lot.
Well, my understanding of what's happening out there in De Leon is that the county is reimbursing $10,000 per property per household.
Right.
So if this is $7,000, it saves everybody money. If you need a volunteer, somebody contact me, I will absolutely put my property in for that. Also, and I didn't do a card for this, but the discussion brought me to this, and I hope you don't mind me asking. We're talking about water, which is vitally important. Lake Helen's water, along with other neighboring cities, has some issues, including very high PFAS. We understand this is caused by aged systems. Is there anything, and I'm not asking Chairman Brower this because I don't think this is in your purview. I'm asking Mr. Barnaby, is there anything that you can do to help our city get grants to replace our aging system, water distribution system?
Well, again, thank you for the question. I don't mean to be redundant. Let me reiterate. The way that funding is secured, appropriations, we call it appropriations, is that this city would need to hire a professional lobbyist. And the city would be best served so that they could demonstrate through the budget process. I heard the city manager talking about budgeting, to at least demonstrate to the state in your appropriations request that you're willing to try to match at least 50% of what it costs for any appropriation request. I mentioned to the county manager, Mr. Rectenwall, and to the county lobbyist, Mr. John Booker, that they need to do the same thing when it comes to so many of the big projects that the county wants to get accomplished. 2 years ago, the city of Lake Helen came to me and wanted some help from the state to replace the windows at City Hall. And I put a request in for $800,000. And unfortunately, Governor DeSantis vetoed my request based on the fact that there was zero contribution from the city of Lake Helen. It was just a straight $800,000 request. And his rationale was that the city didn't have any skin in the game. And what he's saying is, if the city had at least showed some level of percentage from the city budget for the cost of repairing the windows, then he would be more amenable to at least thinking before he vetoed the issue. So again, you're not the only city that I'm explaining this to, but the only reason why I was able to secure $17.5 million in appropriations 2 years ago was because I spoke directly to many of the towns and cities and let them know that the only way we're going to get this past the governor's office is to demonstrate in your appropriation request that you, without naming names, that your city has at least, is going to match at least 50% or up to 50%, depending on how your budget system works down here. But that's how things get done. That's how the needles move in Tallahassee. And I've tried to help so many people from around our state. I've worked tirelessly with people, not just in Volusia County, but throughout the state, because nothing gets done unless the grease is put on the wheel.
Do you know if there's anything that, we are such a small city, we're 4 miles square, we have less than 3,000 residents, and that's the adults and children and everything. We have a very small budget, and we're just tight, or we're really in a tight position. Is there any exceptions for small cities within our county, like us in Oak Hill, and I believe Pearson similar, where all 3 of us of the 16 municipalities were very similar in that small stature size? Is there anything that gives us a leg up as opposed to a large city like Deltona or DeLand that you know of, that you can maybe share with the city administrator or one of our commissioners, just something to help us along to accomplish some of the goals that we really need to do in our city.
Let me just say this. Everything in Tallahassee at the state level works on relationships.
Yes.
You've got to have people that have good relationships with people who, for example, the appropriations chair, the Speaker of the House, the appropriations chair in the Senate, the governor.
Is that you? Could that be you?
Well, I'm not trying to
Yeah.
toot my own horn, but I've recognized the importance of building relationships, building on relationships, because that's how you get the ball moving.
Right.
You don't get anything done by trying to burn down the house. I tell my friends all the time, do not use the hammer approach. That hammer doesn't get anything done in Tallahassee or Washington. You've got to use the feather approach. Somebody who was blessed with sartorial eloquence. You know what sartorial eloquence is? The gift of the gab.
Yes.
Did y'all hear that, folks? The gift of the gab, sartorial eloquence. If you don't know how to communicate and how to build that relationship with folks who's going to help, particularly small cities like this. This is a gem.
It is a gem.
I love Lake Helen, and I'm telling everybody again in Tallahassee that will listen to me, because I'm not going to stop trumpeting how beautiful this town is. And, I trumpeted the fact that the city of DeBarry needed a new fire station. They go, it's a small town, what does it matter? I said, it's a beautiful town. And I met with the gentleman who donated Gemini Springs to the town of DeBarry. Met with him in his office downtown Orlando. I've traveled, done things that others probably wouldn't do. But I believed in getting that fire station for that city of DeBarry. And I believed in helping the city of Lake Helen, the beautiful city of Lake Helen. And you're going to see some things happen. I'm up for re-election in November. And I hope that you tell everybody to get out there and vote for the good-looking Irish guy. Barnaby, that's me.
Thank you.
Barnaby is an old Irish name, but I love people and I care deeply about the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lynn, you had a great question.
Yeah. And this is kind of piggybacking on to, can you hear me?
Yep.
I turned it off. Piggybacking off Mr. Preston and our other gentleman here on insurance, which of course to me is affecting the economy. My husband is a Vietnam vet. He's now in a situation based on the fact that while he was in the Navy, he worked on the island. And he worked on a very old ship. It was a wooden deck. They had no noise abatements for hearing. As the jets would take off, the jet fuel toxins would fall back down onto the guys on the deck. So we're in a situation now that we've lived a very good life, but now at the time that we should be living that better life, we're being hit from every side. I've been passionate about politics since I was 20. I'm quite a bit older than that now. I really want to find some people that can fight for the people. We need good elected officials who are going to say, I am for the citizens. And I know Todd was talking about roofing. Well, it's true. Years ago, and even now, they say you got a 30-year warranty on your roof. Well, that's not true. Because if you start to sell your house and your roof is 9 years old, then they tell you, no, you gotta have a new roof. So it starts right there, and you start that money process of going into another 30-year guarantee. But my question has to do with auto insurance. Now, I've called the Department of Agriculture. In my lifetime, I've done a lot of things. The main thing I've done most of my life was a human resource director for one of the largest companies in the world, AT&T. But after that, when I went on to another life after retirement, I ended up getting a license for auto insurance. Auto insurance in the state of Florida has gone completely insane. My husband and I, when we both retired, we had 2 vehicles. No reason for that, so we got rid of one. That would reduce the cost of insurance payments and things like that. We purchased an automobile that is a smart automobile, almost drives itself. Me stupidly thinking, wow, this is going to help us with the insurance because it has assist brake, it has assist drive, you know, so I won't run into somebody. Well, our insurance payments were $188 a month. 3 months ago, without even being informed by my carrier, my insurance policy went up to $309 a month for one vehicle. So obviously I called him and I'm like, what's up? Well, it's the parts. It's not that we're bad drivers. It's now the cost of the part, which is the cost of roofs. We have the same thing. You can go to Publix and buy a dozen Krispy Kreme donuts, and it's $16 for 12 donuts. So my question is, starting at the county level, because this is for both of you, because obviously your county is being affected with these increasing and rising costs, and then where can we take it to the state? And I'm willing to go to Congress and sit up there in front of them. You know, I have no problems. But we've got to start at this grassroots level, and people speaking out. It's got to stop. So,
let me thank you for bringing awareness that most people in this audience should be already aware. We have seen an influx of car warranty businesses springing up on TV with ads almost every 30 seconds. They're trying to get you to buy a warranty because they know the parts for automobiles have gone up through the roof. And this is something that we in the Commerce Committee, the state of Florida, are looking into right now. And I guarantee you the next session you'll see some legislation aimed at curbing the onslaught that's being unleashed on the public in our state by these warranty companies demanding that you buy a warranty. And they're only saying that because they know the parts have become astronomical. Like you said, even with vehicles with all the safety measures, you think you get a discount, which in the past you did get a discount for all the different safety measures, but unfortunately not anymore. There has to be some protections for the public. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I have met in my office in Tallahassee with the Automobile Association and the lobbyists for the automobile dealers. And the dealers are aware of what's happening. But they need to be, I don't want to use this term, brought to heel. I don't really want to use that term, but I'm looking for a better word. They need to be made to understand that without consumers purchasing their product, they do not have a problem. We don't have to buy their cars, but we do because we want to get from point A to point B. And you can notice the trend that older cars, used cars, are costing a lot more than they used to. Because the new cars, with all the gadgets, you're not getting the discounts. So people are buying used cars, and guess what? They're trying to raise the price of used cars. So it's a conundrum, but it's one, again, that we in the legislature are working on to try to stabilize this situation. And I acknowledge it, and I'm telling you right now, we don't have a magic wand, but what we have is the will and fortitude, so that those that are hurting the public know that we're not going to put up with it. We're not going to put up with consumers being affected, as you said, with the high rate of insurance for the cars, and then the parts for cars. And with new cars, with all the new fandanglements where you can practically have the car drive itself, you should get a discount for that.
That's what I thought.
So that's a federal issue at the federal level, but we in the state, we set the pace for what happens to consumers in our state. And I'll do my part to make sure that consumers are protected in the state of Florida. You have my word.
Well, and I'd like to follow up with, because obviously we know the parts are up. We know we've got 900 people moving into the state of Florida every day. You know, the roads are crazy. I remember before I-4 was built, so that's how old I am. But is there not anything that our county or our state cannot do to make the non-insured motorists who are out there, you know, ramming into cars and causing the price of parts to go up? Is there not any bill or consequences that we cannot put into place, be it with our safety, with our police departments, our sheriff's departments? Is there not something that we can't do instead of just patting someone on the back as they go through the front door and say, gee, you just almost killed someone, or did, and then they walk out the back door, and then we, those who are insured, are paying for the insurance?
Just say, besides balancing the state budget, as a state lawmaker, and we did just balance $191 billion in the state budget. Public safety is job number one. Public safety, that is to make sure that those that are on the roads carry insurance, carry adequate insurance, to make sure that you're not injured, and that if you are injured, you can recover all that you suffered as a result of damage to your vehicle or your personal property.
The representative, if they bought a used car and they paid cash for it, and they may have it titled, but they don't have to carry the same amount of insurance that we carry and what we have to pay for, and they kind of, you know, slip through the cracks.
Yes, we recognize that, and that's why we're currently working with all the tax collectors in all 67 counties to make sure that something can be done when people go to get a tag on their vehicle, that we can make sure that all 67 counties are going to check to make sure that adequate insurance is covered before they get the tag.
Okay, I'm just wondering, where do we start?
We're on it.
We also, I think the state also has laws that you can't drive without insurance. When you get pulled over, what's the first thing that the officer asks you? Insurance card and your license. And so part of it's an enforcement issue. We have thousands and thousands of undocumented people coming across our border who in a couple days have a car somehow and a license somehow, and they're driving. How many of them have insurance? When somebody gets pulled over and you're asked that, if you don't have insurance, there's got to be an enforcement mechanism. Webster's right, and you even said it in your question, that the economy in general costs have gotten so high, inflation is so high, supply chain issues, and that's really has all started at the federal level, and now it's come down. We just went through the process of renegotiating our insurance with the county. Just the increase was over $5 million. That's not the whole bill. And it was, you know, Brown and Brown is the broker, and they negotiated with everybody, they felt like that was a win. We only had to pay $5 million more than we did last year. It doesn't sound like much of a win for taxpayers. I don't know that I can do anything to, or Webster can do anything to directly to make any insurance carrier, car or home, to charge less. There are laws that the state has worked on and our work. You had a special session on just on insurance. One of the things that I can do in the county and that I propose that we do is that because everybody is confronted with these rising costs and inflation, people are really hurting. I told you that my kids trying to find a place to live, so now they're eating at home. Well, that's a good thing for me. I can handle that. But there's a lot of people that can't. There's a lot of single moms and single dads that are really, really struggling. And so what I have asked our council to do is the one thing that directly that we can do, and let's reduce your taxes. You pay, we work hard to keep property taxes low. My first year that I got elected, I asked for a 5% decrease in spending so that we could decrease your taxes. I didn't get it, but I got 3%. And we were able to go to full rollback, which means you didn't get a tax cut, but you didn't pay more for your property because your property values are going up so rapidly. So you're always confronted with paying more. So I learned from that, and this year I asked for 10%, hoping to get 5%. And as soon as I said it, you know, some of the other council members started mumbling and don't know if we can get there. But the county manager stepped up and said, rather than a percentage, why don't we say we'll go to, we'll do whatever we have to do in our budget to go to full rollback so that nobody has a tax increase. I want to look at everything, every tax that we have a say in reducing that tax and taking the burden off of you. And likewise, just like they do in Tallahassee, looking at all of our expenditures. And this is going to sound pitiful to Webster with the budget he looks at. I look at a $1.2 billion budget, and I keep telling staff there's always something that can be cut out of $1 billion. It doesn't affect your quality of life. It's not going to take a road away. And it's not just fraud, waste, and abuse. It's spending that sounds really good that we might not need to do, and you would never miss it as a quality of life issue. So I want to take responsibility, and I've asked our council to take responsibility to go through the budget and find line items that we can say, can we cut that? Not demand it, but then talk to the division heads. Can we cut it? We have to reduce the size of government wherever we can.
Let me just say, Chairman Burr, that we just passed, of course, I serve on the Tax Committee, the Ways and Means Committee. We just passed 2024 tax package, which includes the return of tax holidays like Freedom Summer, back to school, tool time. In other words, you don't have to pay taxes anymore when we have the Freedom Summer back to school, all taxes on your tools. These tax holidays will help families get the supplies they need to make summer great and then have their kids ready for next school year. The tool time tax holiday will ensure essential skilled workers have the tools they need to succeed. We have continued to make it almost tax-free to raise a child in Florida by removing sales tax from many of the products needed. We in the legislature will continue to ensure that Floridians pay less in taxes and see more economical success than any other state. We're doing our best.
I know you are. I know. And like Helen, I mean, you're $1 billion budget. How many billions you are? We're at 4 million, a little over 4 million. Not doesn't sound like a lot, but when you start looking at the expenses, at the end of the year, we have nothing. Thank you for
You know,
your
that, and that cuts both ways. Florida is the leader in the United States of wise spending and having a surplus in government. That's Webster said that the state has done a lot for the Indian River Lagoon. Well, I'm the chairman of the Indian River Lagoon Council. We have more money this year than we've ever had because the state has given us so much money for projects to clean up water.
And I was at Sebastian Inlet with the governor when we announced that we're doing more in the budget. In fact, we passed a bill to protect and establish Florida's wildlife corridor. And I was proud to be co-sponsor on that bill as well.
But I say it cuts both ways because people from other states, especially the Northeast and Michigan, look at us and they say, wow, the cost of living is not quite so bad. Their taxes are lower. They have more freedom. And so we used to have 1,000 people a day moving into the state. It's more than that now. And so the better job that we do, the more people that are coming to take part of that, and that puts pressure on increases. So Webster needs to build a fence across the panhandle.
That's all it is. Do we have any other?
I had one from Kelly Frasca. Did you want to come up and ask it?
So busy making sure the mic's on for others and then check for myself. So my question's kind of changed a little bit over the past questions that have been asked and answered. Back when I had taken office, I had met Jeff and Webster, and one of the things that I remember discussing with both of you were the bodies of water and how we're treating those bodies of water as far as environmentally impacting. And one of the things that was discussed was how do we treat our lake here in Lake Helen. That was about 3-4 years ago, and since then we had went ahead and we gained a lake maintenance plan that I championed through our commission, which has changed it for us. But my question is how has the county or the state looked at the herbicide treatments on between the county and the state of Florida? I know that when Jeff, when you came in, we also had talked about we brought in aquaculture and their methods of removing, you remember that too, I'm sure. And the methods that they were using removed the herbicides mechanically and were quite effective, and they were going into Lake Okeechobee. So, I guess my question would be, where are we now as far as a county and a state in looking at the health of our bodies of water?
Let me just say from a state standpoint, Commissioner, we, the legislature, I'm proud to say, have shown a strong commitment to conservation efforts in Florida. We actually passed a bill protecting and establishing, as I said earlier, Florida's wildlife corridor. And the governor just recently announced efforts to protect the manatees in Volusia County. In Florida, we understand the importance of our environment. Our beaches bring millions to the state each year. Our springs and lakes do the same. The lush and diverse ecosystem in the Everglades is an earmark of the South Florida landscape. We will do everything in our power to protect our wildlife and our ecosystems and all the nature that brings nature to make Florida great. We are going to do so in a way that does not negatively impact businesses, does not force anyone to stop using gas, and does not bend the knee to Biden and the Democrats' Green New Deal. Just being very clear with you. Aimed at taking your freedoms away, we believe that's what the Green New Deal will do eventually. In Florida, you will be free to enjoy your gas cars and stoves, and free to enjoy the vibrant ecosystems we fight to protect. And that includes the beautiful lakes that we fight to protect here in this beautiful city of Lake Helen. And we are being careful to work very closely with the Department of Environmental Protection to make sure that the environment is protected. You have my word on it.
Thank you.
Let me tell you directly what happened with aquaculture. I always have to think about it in my mind. It's aquaculture is the name of this company. It was a pig farmer out of Missouri, and he ended up with horrible water problems on his property, and he didn't want to spray Roundup because he's trying to grow healthy food. And so he developed this piece of equipment. I met him, I went down, I heard about it, I read about him, went down to South Florida to hear him make a presentation to the city of Stewart, where my sister lived, because they have horrible water problems. You can hardly drink their water. In fact, they advised my sister not to. They made a presentation, and they were making a tour of the state trying to get resolutions so that they can take it to Governor DeSantis and get a grant. It's kind of like what I'm going through with DEP, because you have to test it, and it has to be proven. So Volusia County Council did a resolution. It didn't cost us any money. We just said, this sounds good, we should test it. Most of the cities we went to did. You supported it heavily in Lake Helen.
But the city of Lake Helen did not.
But the city of Lake Helen did not. I remember there was one very strong voice who just didn't see it. Well, the governor, we got enough resolutions. The governor okayed, I think it wasn't a lot of money as far as the project goes, but $500,000 to test it on Lake Okeechobee. It has plenty of aquatic weeds that need to be cleared up. The company, it's like a, trying to think of the farm equipment, but anyway, it's a mechanical harvester on floats. It's like a combine. It goes on water. It grabs the aquatic weeds, but you don't have to take it back to the shore then. It makes a slurry out of it, and they can pump it 500 miles if they need to through a system of hoses and spray it as a fertilizer, because there's a lot of nutrients in those plants. They can also suck up all the muck on the bottom of a lake. Spray it on a pasture, grows incredible hay or vegetable. I think they've always done hay. So Florida, the state of Florida approved that. They've now done projects in New Smyrna, they're in Kissimmee, they're doing the horribly polluted lakes in the Orlando area that got polluted through the Lake Apopka, through chemicals from the citrus industry. So they're making a lot of progress. There are still, I think right here in Lake Helen, some of the people that I met through this process still maintain, not the commission, residents. There's absolutely nothing wrong with Roundup. It doesn't cause cancer. And the food conference I went to last weekend, they had so much evidence that Roundup is a carcinogen. And there was not a farmer there that would touch it. If we would just stop using it and find alternatives like this mechanical way, you could kill weeds with vinegar, not with what you buy at the store. It's got to be 7% or above, and it actually helps the soil. So it's a different way of thinking, and while I was really disappointed that Lake Helen didn't agree to a resolution, the governor approved it because we got enough resolutions around the state, and And once again, Florida is becoming a leader in how do we take care of the aquatic weed problem that's choking up all of our lakes, streams. And instead of just spraying it with Roundup, letting it fall to the bottom, creating this toxic sludge that kills fish. And so kudos to the governor in the state of Florida who saw this, and kudos to the local people and the county who saw the benefits in it.
Let me just say, Jeff, on State Road 44 in New Smyrna Beach, there's a quite company called BMAX. And I've known them for over 20 years, and they have done a tremendous job in helping to clean up the lakes with the technology that Steve Beeman, who was the founder of BMAX, developed. Steve went to the University of Hawaii, and he's worked tirelessly with his son, Forrest Beeman, and they have been instrumental in helping to clean up through the BMAX process of the plant system many of the lakes around our state. And I've recommended it to the governor, and they are working very closely with us in the state. So again, everything is about relationships. People, you build relationships over the years. I'm just proud that they're a Volusia County business, agriculture business.
Well, thank you so much for the awareness, and I'm happy to see that not only Volusia County, but the state of Florida is seeking alternative methods.
I want to add to that real quick, just because we've talked about the Indian River Lagoon, which is on the east side of the county. Most of you know it as the Halifax River, but it starts in South Florida. The actual part of the lagoon ends in North Ormond. We have through the privilege of being county chair, I've met a clam farmer he has leases in the lagoon from St. Augustine all the way down to Oak Hill. And he came to me and said, look, you got a bunch of kids. I want to revive the seafood industry in Volusia County. And I said, well, I don't know if my kids are going to help you, but tell me what you're talking about. He's got the leases. He wants to put people in business to grow clams and oysters and even fish inside nets that would be clean fish instead of grown in tanks that are full of bacteria. So as chairman of the Indian River Lagoon, I took him and introduced him to Dr. Dwayne DeFries, the governor's very wise appointee to that Indian River Lagoon Council. On Wednesday, we deposited 10 million clam seeds. It's just a little tiny clam, looks just like a great big clam, but they're small. 10 million out of a drone. It used to take us a half a day to do that. It's kind of a fun day, but it's time. It took minutes to deposit 10 million seed clams, and so I tell you that because now that's going to go back to the Indian River Lagoon, and Dr. DeFries said, I will put our own grant writers on that to help you increase that, get more people to come in and revive. One of the best ways to revive the quality of our water is through shellfish that remove all the impurities from the water. So there are some good things happen environmentally, and that one for me was really exciting to see that technology with fish farm combination, and those are the kind of things that we need to do.
So I have one more question to that. I know that some counties have banned certain of the, particular herbicide treatments as they found it to be cancer-causing, lymphoma, and other health hazards, not only to the applicator, but to the animals and into the plants that grow around them. Is that something that we would be looking at in the county or maybe in the state? I know in certain parts of Europe they are banned.
Well, I want to say that, again, because of the litigious nature that we face, we receive wise counsel all the time from the state legislators, there's certain topics that we don't touch while it's being litigated. And there's a lot of legislation right now, a lot of litigation right now taking place. I know that you see on TV, there's law firms currently suing the firm called Roundup. They've been sued, and we in the state of Florida, Attorney General Ashley Mooney is working together with Chief Financial Officer Jimmy Petrolis on this very, very topic. So I don't have a comment on it right now because, like I said, there's a lot of legislation surrounding this issue. But we are making sure that in the state of Florida we protect our environment, we protect our economy, and we sure don't want anyone to suffer any harm because public safety is job number one besides balancing the budget.
Let me just add this to that. I think when you talk about banning something, you immediately get a wall resurrected against you by, it's hard to ban stuff. So I hate to keep going back to this conference.
Maybe the term no longer using?
Well, the conference that I went to, that came up a lot because there was nobody there that uses Roundup or at almost any chemical. And so the approach we have taken, instead of saying, let's ban this, is to say, let's show an alternative and show that it's economically feasible and show that you can build the economy and grow good food without that stuff and give other people, other farmers, hope. Roundup is used by every landscape company, every farmer. It was used in war, was part of Agent Orange that people like this gentleman here suffer from now. So that's probably a better tactic. Let's show a different way and make it work. I've gone from organic farming to regenerative farming, which is similar to organic. It just really focuses on putting life back in the soil and letting the soil do its magic, bringing the nutrients that it needs and fighting pesticide or fighting pest, disease and insect. And that's, almost every farmer at this conference was a regenerative farmer. It's the fastest growing segment in agriculture. So instead of banning, we're trying to set a different standard and give hope and show them how it can be done. Now the guy that has 10 million acres of growing wheat is still gonna laugh at me because he wants to fly his plane and float and spray Roundup on Roundup-ready soybeans, corn, and we don't eat that stuff. It's deadly. So, anyway.
But thank you so much.
Thank you all for doing this. Well,
gentlemen, before you go, what's the meeting? Yes.
I get the last one.
Okay, please do.
I just want to thank you guys for coming out. And Barney, you said it more than a few times. It's about relationships. And our relationship goes back to all the way back when you were city commissioner, and you ran for the county, and then you ran for the state. So our relationship, I feel that is what has helped me just watching you. Jeff, as you say, you've seen us, and when I came into the office, it was just making myself available. And by being available, you learn from other people. One of the things that you also mentioned, Webs, about lobbyists. Every time I come up to Tallahassee, I always come and look for you. And we've come up to Tallahassee only because the Boys and Girls Club have lobbyists that tell us who to speak to. And you've always been on that list. So that's why we always take that chance to get out there to you. Jeff, the other thing that you and I have in common, I got 9 kids too. So you are 5 biological and 4 adopted. But the numbers of kids, my kids are, I mean, they're a little bit older than yours, but at least they don't come back. So I'm not inviting. But we do, here in Lake Helen, we are a very unique community. We do have a lot of pride in our city, a lot of pride in our town. And we really hope that the relationships that Barnaby speaks about, and we have 5 members on our commission, each one of us has the ability to reach out and try to figure out, what's the best way to move forward. When we had our crisis with our lake, we had hydrilla that was contaminating the lake. And it just so happens at the time that we were having to go up to Fish and Wildlife to get a waiver because of all of the toxins that they had put in Lake Okeechobee, and there was a complete ban on anything. But as it turned out, that in order to deal with the hydrilla, we had to get it into the water. It's a chemical. We had to get it into the water so that before the weather got too cold, it would settle down and then it would not come back. But the reason it doesn't come back is because we put sterile carp in there. So there was a combination of natural vegetation that was being eaten up by the carp, and because of the type of chemical that we needed to put down, we did put the chemical down, it's no telling where our lake would be right now. But at least one of the things that we had done up until the time I was on the commission, we had taken our lakes for granted. It was always there. We kind of never took the time. But as Commissioner Fresco said, that we now have a budget to look into the lake and to invest into the lake. Because that's what it is. It's an investment. Like everybody that likes coming to Lake Helen, they like seeing what they see when they get here. But we here who live here, we want to make sure that it's going to be here for our kids and their kids come back. So we have a willing partnership here with you because we know we're a small city. So we need to get to the big guys to help us, because if not for you, we wouldn't be able to make what we need to happen and keeping it right. And we thank you for guys for coming out here, because being a politician, you have to be almost invincible to both critiques and criticism and stand for what you are, and I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor, for having us here tonight. I want to thank everybody for being such wonderful participants. I have to leave. I'm sorry. I have another pressing appointment. But again, it's been a joy. I'll come back. I'll be happy to work with you all, commissioners, mayor, Madam Clerk, and all the audiences here tonight. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. God bless the beautiful city of Lake Helen.
This was very informative. I wish you all the best in this run of the election. And Dre, thank you very much for helping me out. You guys have a safe drive home. You've got a ways to go. Thank you.
Yeah.